Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. And Colin Kulpa is here, our IndyCar expert. Hello. I thought we were done with bombshell announcements today because we already did one. If you haven't seen the reaction video to Tyler Reddick's move to 2311 Racing that my good friend Taylor Kitchen of Above the Yellow Line, TobyChristie.com, and the Podium Finish did, that I had with her earlier today. Go check that one out. But apparently we weren't done with bombshell announcements because this Alex Palou thing decided to come about. This is instant reaction, so this is the instant reaction because I love instant reaction, Colin. I don't know if you know that. Okay, let's just start with catching everybody. Chip Ganassi Racing announced earlier today that they've announced that they exercised the team option to extend Alex Palou through the 2023 season. And they announced that blah, 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 blah. And then they put out the standard press releases most teams do. But then the interesting thing just happened. Alex Palou recently put a statement on Twitter saying, I have recently learned from the media that this afternoon, without my approval, Chip Ganassi Racing issued a press release announcing that it would be driving with CGR in 2023. Even more surprising was that CGR's release included a quote which did not come from me. I did not approve that press release, and I did not author or approve that quote. As I have recently informed CGR for personal reasons, I do not intend to continue with the team after 2022. This evening's unfortunate events aside, I have great respect for the CGR team and look forward to finishing this season strongly together. Since he put that tweet out, McLaren announced that he would be joining that team's organization in 2023. It did not say which racing operation it would be. Would it be Formula E? Would it be IndyCar? Whether it be, he's going to go test an F1 car, which is really interesting right now, and we'll get to more of that later. But there's a lot of interesting details in this. And I think there's still a lot of things we're still learning. But let's get your reaction to this. It's been out there that Alex Palou, his name's been floated around McLaren for a long time. And it was now and there, but there's a lot of interesting pieces to this.
There's so many pieces because McLaren has established itself as more than an F1 company. Right. They have a Formula E team. They have their IndyCar team now with Schmidt-Peterson. They have their 2 Formula One seats. I believe they're looking into a LMDH program with the new regulations in sports cars. I don't know where Alex Palou is racing next year. But he won't be racing for Chip Ganassi is my guess. Now, I only say my guess because I am not a contract lawyer or a contract expert. And the best I understood the Chip Ganassi Racing release, which as of just before 8 p.m. the night of the announcement, is still up on the Chip Ganassi Racing website. The team has exercised its option to extend Alex Palou through the 2023 season. That is not a decision Alex Palou gets to make. That is an option that the team has to have, similar, as I understand it, to NFL teams that exercise a player option. Usually those NFL players aren't super excited to compete for that team when that happens, if they're looking for something else.
For example, in NASCAR terms, Tyler Reddick had an option for 2023 with RCR. RCR exercised that option. That's why he's going to 2311 in 2024.
Exactly. And maybe why he felt inclined to announce that earlier. I haven't been as tuned into that one, so I won't speak to that one. Still, thought that would be the craziest news of the day. I don't know. Because this Alex Palou news comes at a time where Daniel Ricciardo is not guaranteed an F1 seat for next year. Colton Herta actively testing last year's spec Formula One car in Portugal.
Yep.
Felix Rosenqvist will be competing for McLaren at some level next year. Could be Formula E. At this stage, I don't know. My gut reaction, and I said this right before we went on air, is, and I'm now verifying this with what I believe to be a valid FIA approved information sheet. Alex Palou, should he complete a 2-day test in a Formula One car by the start of 2023, could be in the McLaren Formula One seat aside Lando Norris. I say that because You have to have accumulated 40 super license points over a 3-year period. That's one of the stipulations. You get 40 for winning the IndyCar championship, which you did in 2021. At least 80% of each of 2 full seasons of a single seater. He's already done that. He doesn't even have to complete the rest of this year. He has to pass an FIA theory test. I think he understands racing. He has to have a valid driving license. I assume he has one either in America or Spain. International grade A competition license, and has to be at least 18 years old. Alex Palou meets all those requirements. I don't remember if Colton Herta has enough super license points. I know he has the wins, but even 10th in the IndyCar series only gets you 1 super license point. Winning it gets you 40. My gut is telling me Alex Palou could be a serious contender for that Formula One seat. And that's just shocking to me. And I wonder, this is my gut reaction, but I also think it's the least likely, but it could also be the most likely. I'm just confused. But I wonder if Chip Ganassi picking up that option kind of locks Alex Palou either into a Chip Ganassi IndyCar seat or a McLaren seat somewhere else. That's how I'm interpreting that. Like, if I had an NFL contract with the Indianapolis Colts and they exercise my team option, nothing is stopping me from playing baseball for a team if I'm good enough, right? That's kind of the vibe I'm getting here. And I haven't seen anything to confirm that other than my gut. But you brought it up. Palou, I think it was Jenna Fryer of the AP brought it up first, that Palou and McLaren had been rumored to be talking. Yeah. And I'm guilty of this at the time. I was like, I don't know about that, because they had just recently announced, or later announced, Alex Rossi joining as the 3rd car. I think we've reached a point where we're probably not going to see Robert Wickens in the 3rd car. He's been promised for a while. I imagine he could do it, but he would have to pass certain safety things, and you got to rebuild the car so he's able to control it with his hands at the moment. I don't see that as likely.
And plus, since that happened, you have to remember that's when McLaren took a more of a bigger role in the IndyCar team, which was still, I think Schmitz-Peterson still had a majority ownership within that organization. If I'm not
they did. It was shortly thereafter McLaren even got involved. They brought on Pato Award, Felix Rosenquist later, and they've seen success, and they've gotten better and better and better. And everything about this is not alluding to Alex Palou being in an IndyCar seat next year. It's him racing for McLaren next year. My gut is telling me it's not going to be in the IndyCar series. And I think it would, I don't know if Alex Palou's talents would be best fit in Formula E.
I think he could possibly go to Formula One.
I don't think it's impossible. Now he has to hit the certain requirements. He has to test in the F1 car by the beginning of the 2023 season.
Yep.
I believe the actual language is competitive race speeds of 300 kilometers an hour in a representative F1 car over no more than 2 days. Yep. As part of a test certified and must be completed no more than 180 days before their application.
Okay.
The timing of this, or what was the quote from not Chip Ganassi, RCR earlier today? The timing could not have been more horrible. I disagree. It's fantastic timing because it's really interesting. Gives us something to talk about. My gut is telling me Palou is not racing in IndyCar next year, which is very exciting for me as an IndyCar fan. Love to see him stay. I think it's good when your drivers are being showcased elsewhere, though. Mm-hmm. He could still be very much in like a number 7 IndyCar next year as well, though. I am not at all saying I have an inside source. This is just a gut feeling. Do not quote me. Do not verify me. Do not put me on a social media graphic. But I would not be shocked if it happened. I may tweet about it later, but this is within the realm of possibility. It could also be possible they wanted a star talent to drive their new car to try and win the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which I don't believe they've announced yet, but it's possible. I don't know. And then if Chip Ganassi has to fill the number 10 spot, Rinus VeeKay is right there. Yeah. He's still looking. Yep. Anyone on that IndyCar roster that Chip Ganassi wants, he might be able to go get, as long as they don't drive for Penske or McLaren at this point. And there are drivers in Indy Lights that are more than capable of filling that number 10 spot. I think of
Linus Lundqvist.
Linus Lundqvist. I think of Benjamin Peterson, who brings in a financial backing. Should that be an issue? This is the NTT data car, so I don't think funding is an issue. But who's to say that gets shuffled around with this? You could be pulling a Formula 2 or a Formula 3 driver that you think is capable. I think, Alex Palou himself came from Super Formula Japan, I believe, and then showed up with Dale Coyne during the pandemic 2020 season.
Oh yeah.
And then immediately won a championship with Chip Ganassi. And he's been fast all year. He's been kind of quietly fast. I don't think he's won yet, but he has been competitive. He is either going to be Scott Dixon, Alex Palou, or Marcus Ericsson that would win the Indianapolis 500. And if it weren't for Palou's issues, he probably would have won that race. He's fast in a race car. In anything he drives, even when the team maybe doesn't have the skill or the money to put him up where he needs to be, he's driving it to the limit. Yeah. Man. It's shocking, but who's to say what happens next in IndyCar? I wouldn't guarantee anything at this point, other than probably the Penske drivers aren't going to change, and Roger Penske is probably not going to sell the series anytime soon. That's the only guarantees I can give you.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Yeah, I don't think that's going to, or NBC leave, or NBC gets rid of I don't know, or NBC leaves the IndyCar series. I don't think that's going to happen either. They have too much fun. They do a pretty good job too. So, what happens next? Because now you got, in August, we'll find out what Rinus VeeKay does. Obviously, if you've been following stories, he can't talk about anything yet because, contract. So we'll have to see what he has to say once August 1st rolls around. Who's to say what's next? I mean, who's left out there? Who still has to have a ride? That's the thing. Because
and this is the interesting thing, is I don't know that there's drivers on the IndyCar grid that if they don't find a ride, they're not going to have one. Right. I don't think it's shrinking this year. Tatiana Calderon and Jerry Hildebrand aside.
Yeah.
Verify your sponsors.
Yes.
I don't think anyone is in imminent danger, especially with all the the Ferris wheel of silly season. It just keeps spinning and new people keep getting off. Callum Ilett's not leaving. Callum Ilett could leave. If the money's there, Juncos is growing.
Yes.
That it will take them a decade to get to the level of Chip Ganassi racing in IndyCar. I haven't seen verification that Jimmy Johnson is coming back for full time. I don't know anything that would make me think he's not. I think he's put in too much time and effort to leave at this point. Right. At least after not one more year, one more try on the ovals. Yeah. Definitely the Indy 500 at least. I'm just going through the list. I don't see Ericsson moving. Power, Newgarden. Well, Palou's fourth. He's moving. Award's not leaving McLaren. Dixon's not leaving CGR. McLaughlin's not leaving. Rossi's already going to McLaren. Yep. Pagenaud's pretty set at Michael Shank. Yep. Colton Herta, if he's driving an IndyCar next year, will be driving the number 26 with his dad at Andretti.
Yep.
Rosenquist, if Palou isn't in an IndyCar seat, Rosenquist might still have his job. I guess he's the one I would think about, but he's still guaranteed a McLaren drive, just maybe not a McLaren IndyCar drive.
Yeah.
VeeKay could move around. I don't see Connor Daly moving. I don't know.
Connor Daly's moving.
Grosjean I think he signed a multi-year deal. I don't think he's leaving. Rahal obviously isn't leaving Rahal. No. Castro Neves has got a year. Lundgaard's not leaving Rahal. Sato's locked up.
Locked up.
Harvey. Devlin DeFrancesco, he's not getting signed by Ganassi. He's got another year to learn in Andretti, I would think, before they even touch him. I don't know if
going to Andretti. I don't know if you mentioned that already. Kirkwood's already going to Andretti.
Yeah, filling up the number 27. Interesting could be Tony Kanaan. He drove for Ganassi at the 500.
You think he would come back?
Tony Kanaan loves driving a race car. Yeah, that cannot be ignored. And if Chip needs help, to fill an IndyCar seat at the last minute, relatively. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to see Tony Kanaan come back for one more year. I also don't know if that's ovals only. I don't know if this could be a rotating kind of seat. Maybe, you know what? Let's get wacky. Maybe it's a Trackhouse #1 team style thing where we see Kyle Larson in it for a little bit, and who knows? Ross Chastain in IndyCar sounds like a biohazard. I don't know. Is JR Hildebrand still interested in driving full time? Does he have the money?
Yeah.
Sage Karam still around in the series. He had it one stint at Ganassi.
Sage Karam told me I think he's more pursuing of the NASCAR stuff.
I'm not shocked. That's a good point. Juan Pablo's still around, but he's with McLaren part-time. I don't know what he's up to. I don't see Santino's still around. I don't, if he could find
somebody that could, now Santino could be an interesting option for a lot of teams, because I know that, you know, funding has always been an issue, and he's told me in the past that he would like to go back full-time IndyCar racing at some point.
And I think of the current funding of the Ganassi teams, they're all pretty stable.
Yep.
NTT's on the car almost every weekend for the number 10.
Yep.
Number 9's pretty much just a PNC Bank car, I think, every race. Marcus Ericsson's set with Husky Chocolate. American Legion's got Jamie Johnson covered, and Tony Kanaan for one-offs.
As well as Carvana too.
Carvana, well, hopefully. I know Carvana itself might not be a business success, but at least at the moment, I know they laid off a bunch of people, but I'm not here to speculate their success. They seem to be well funded, so I don't know if it's an issue of shuffling those around. I don't know if NTT wants to put their money behind maybe a Scott Dixon now. PNC shuffles over to a different car, and maybe the number 10, and that's where Santino is. I don't know what's next, but it's gonna be silly.
Well, and I just want to let the audience know this is pure speculation. We do not know anything.
No sources. Don't put me on ESPN.
Anything. I have sources, but
you have sources. I got nothing.
More on the NASCAR side. It's not really on the IndyCar side. It's yeah, but we'll have to see what happens here. But I felt like I needed to make this video tonight. Anyway, a couple more thoughts on this, but I know you gotta hop off here, but I did want to get your thoughts on two things. You mentioned this kind of earlier, with Rokit, the situation with the 11 team. Now the 14 team, they still have funding throughout the year. That is good. When I talked to Larry Ford, and by the way, full transaction, the AJ Foy team has been really, really open about this, and it's
surprisingly open, I'd say, because I mean,
the testament to that PR staff. I mean, they are some of the best people to work with, and this is somebody that's covered IndyCar for a long time. So the obviously the situation with Rokit, for people that don't know, and you follow this, what is Rokit?
Best I can make of it, they sell a bunch of random startup electronic adjacent stuff. I know you texted me a couple weeks ago. What is Rokit? You go to their website. They have a smartphone. I've never seen anyone using a Rokit smartphone. They have a bunch of kind of various smart devices, but I've never seen them in homes. I know they had a stint in Formula One. I know I've seen them in other series, but I've never seen one of their products in the wild. And there's a long list of motorsport sponsors that have ended up not being able to fulfill payments for various reasons. And, that's one thing. If your business dries up, then you're not gonna be able to pay to put your name on a race car. That's just how that happens.
Yep.
And DC Solar, Rich Energy, there's a list of names. And, you hate to see it. To Tatiana Calderon, it's great to see more diversity in the IndyCar series, and she was improving. She was fast. She led a lap at the Indy GP in May. And it may have been a strategy thing, but she was leading that race, and if the cards were right, she would have kept that lead, and it wasn't out of the realm of possibility. And it was her best finish of the year. She's gotten better. And JR Hildebrand, in that car for ovals, he put up some good finishes, and we know how hard it is to step into an IndyCar and ring it out at 200 miles an hour like 3 times a year. It's just unfortunate, but I mean, so is the way of business in motorsports.
Yeah. And last thing, IndyCar does have a race this weekend. I don't know if you know that. With everything that's happened, IndyCar does
It's going to be spicy.
It is going to, I think in IndyCar and NASCAR this weekend, it is. Of course, IndyCar is embarking on a 4-race stretch that will take them all the way to the first week of August. Toronto, 2 races in Iowa, return. Kind of like a vaguely returns. First time to Toronto since 2019. Obviously, obviously the COVID, since the COVID pandemic in Canada. Iowa is back on the schedule for the first time since 2020. They'll have 2 races this year. Back to the Indy GP with NASCAR. Of course, I think there's a good chance you might be at that.
We will see. We'll see. I hope so.
Okay. And then, of course, Nashville. Of course, in the streets of Nashville. And everybody knows how that went last year. I think it might go much.
I did get to witness that one. That was interesting.
Oh, yeah, that was interesting. I'm covering NASCAR that weekend, so that'll be fun. So let's talk about that. Going to Toronto for the first time in 3 years. It is going to be interesting for sure. A lot of drivers in the field have not raced there. I think there's only a handful of drivers that were in the IndyCar series that have raced there. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. The last time they raced at Toronto was the year Rossi and Pagenaud battled 500. That was a long time ago. In terms of motorsports, and it's hard to say because these teams haven't been to Toronto since the Aeroscreen, and there were a lot of teams that had a tough time adapting their old setups to new setups, adjusting for the balance and weight and aerodynamic impact the Aeroscreen had on their cars. A lot of teams struggled, and it took them a while. Andretti Autosport, I think, is a great example. Colton Herta aside, they haven't won since 2019. That's not to say they haven't won. Obviously, Colton Herta has been very successful, but no other driver on that team has won. And partly, best I can make of it is because of their struggle adapting to that. So anything you have in the notebook is probably not going to work at Toronto. Yeah. Or if it does, everyone's going to be looking at you. And yeah, any driver that is in Alex Palou has never raced at Toronto, and he's an IndyCar champion. And it's a mainstay on the calendar, and the IndyCar champion has never raced there. So it will be an unpredictable weekend. I'm very excited to see what happens. And I'd say the same thing for Iowa. Double headers are brutal. Double headers at Iowa sound like hell. That track is bumpy. That track is brutal. It will beat you up. And the late evening start time, it will be in the heat of the day, in the sun, both days on NBC. This weekend's race is on Peacock, by the way. At Toronto, they do sell monthly subscriptions if you're opposed to the idea of Peacock and you want to see the race, so that'd be like $5. I am not paid for by Peacock, by the way. But Iowa's going to be exciting. That's an oval race too in the IndyCar series, so luck can get you a win if you drive the best race, not necessarily the fastest car. The best race gets you the win. Yeah. And then the Gallagher Grand Prix is the official title on July 30th. That'll be a nice calm change of pace. You get to drive down the street. It's the very exciting IndyCar NASCAR doubleheader weekend. But that race happens in very different conditions than we saw in the May race. And the couple of years they've tried this in 2020, 2021, it was put on a different show. It'll be hot and slick out there in the Indiana sun. It'll be that Colton Herta obviously is going to be a favorite after winning in May. Simon Pagenaud was fast. He was on the podium in May. And Will Powers, that's a race where I can give you 3 names that I think have a shot. And then Nashville as well. Marcus Ericsson is be the defending winner. Colton Herta was the fastest car on track until he pushed his car a little too far. And there are subtle track changes that should make it a more watchable show. From my position at the end of the bridge, I thought it was quite entertaining, but I did wish the cars would stop crashing a little bit. But yes, this stretch of the IndyCar season is going to make or break a lot of teams. Shameless plug, in the Twin Checkers newsletter last week, I previewed the 8 drivers, I think have a legit shot at winning the IndyCar title at this point. I think if you're more than 100 points back, you're out of it. That includes Colton Herta. I don't think he can make up a gap to first. He might be able to make it up to second if he puts together some great runs, and luck strikes the right way. But I think your top 8 currently, from Alex Rossi, Pato O'Ward, the Penske boys, Palou, Ericsson, and Dixon, I think that's where your IndyCar champion is coming from. And whoever gets through the next 4 weeks in the best shape is probably going to be either leading with points or going to be in a great position when they head to St. Louis on the 20th.
Yeah. And then St. Louis, Portland, and Laguna Seca to finish off the year. So not a lot of races left, and it's going to go by fast. So should be interesting to watch. But Colin, thanks for coming on spur of the moment and to talk about all this news. And we'll have you on again sometime in the next few weeks.
Of course, great to be here.